Revelation 12, Inner Earth. Revelation 12, 7 to 13, Inner Earth. This brief discussion explores Revelation 12, for there was war in heaven, and Satan is thrown out of heaven, equals Revelation 12, 7 to 13. The war in heaven brings to mind a deep sphere of material that many distance themselves from because they say it holds no bearing on their salvation. Well, sin commenced in heaven. There is the divine mandate, equals the cleansing of the Day of Atonement, equals Daniel 8:14, and the high priestly ministry of Christ after the order of Melchizedek. Folk from the field have asked, but why the need to discuss the inner earth? What have demonic chained entities got to do with the apocalypse and end events? Well, for starters, it dramatically is included in Revelation 12. And then to be discussed about the inner earth are the memoirs of a famous admiral who met with the inner earth, Ariane, seemingly wise, noble, virtuous, and peaceful. And this is one of the many connections to inner earth mysteries. The Bible states Satan was cast down to the earth, and his realm is under the earth. Revelation 12:7 equals Job 1:6-7 and Philippians 2:10. The book of Job, recorded in the early prophetic era of the great red dragon, and Job, a righteous man who eschewed evil, encountered painful experiences and finally recognizes something exceedingly greater, which was Christ's eternal righteousness. It so happens it's in the core theology of the everlasting gospel, Revelation 14, and the eternal righteousness of he who made transcends righteousness by faith and the war of Revelation 12. Because eternal righteousness presents the purest form, the doctrine of the Godhead, and it is the root of righteousness by faith. And when you see that fact from what is the divine vantage point, only then can the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies be resolved, period. Why? Because Sister White never resolved the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies. But, moreover, in respect to Revelation 12, Christ's eternal identity equals alpha scenario is fiercely challenged by those who emerge from the inner earth, and that is no picnic. And deception is rampant. But guess what? Both John and Paul conveyed eternal righteousness and eternal righteousness by faith. Isaiah 14 already tells us the ultimate objective of Satan was equality with Godhood, doctrine of God. And why should it not be the last effort of contention at the very end of time? Inner earth. When it comes to the great red dragon, one does not immediately relate Revelation 12 with the war in heaven to the inner earth, just as everyone does not immediately relate all the animal beasts of Revelation to be summarized in the same chapter. But then who takes time to examine Revelation 12, 7 to 13, and there was war in heaven, which continues all the way to the end of time against the saints? The careless, the indifferent are today hoping with the glove gospel. They lose sight of Scripture and conclude the inner earth stuff, is not important because it's way out there. It's sci-fi. It's got nothing to do with the Bible or the love of God. And yet God says the beast rises up from the bottomless pit. See Revelation 9, 11, 17, and 20. Equals the inner earth. For that reason, God has uniquely placed Revelation 13, 8 to 9 to be in existence as heavens defines a response in the Luciferian age, equals Revelation 13. And God positioned 13, 8, and 9 of that chapter for an important purpose, which is what? The awareness of eternal righteousness and the seal of God, equals Revelation 7, in its relationship to the Day of Atonement. It is of no coincidence. The 10 horns of the animal beast were part and parcel of the attack of the doctrine of God, equals John 1:1, all through time, and that attack you saw in the last discussion is summarized in Revelation 12, where the great red dragon morphed the transition age from beast that was and is not, and there is no question it is accorded unto the 10-10 scenario. And the 10 kings of the fourth beast were religiously associated, 3 horns that were Arian and 7 horns that are Trinitarian. So what has the 10 horns got to do with the inner earth? It must be asked, do inner earth Aryans exist? Admiral Byrd and the Ariani. Here's your link. The above article about Admiral Byrd sets out how he led a naval expedition fleet to the South Pole in 1947, being he flew into the area of what he explains as a natural portal, and his account relates he was met by a master of the Ariani race. So immediately, here are some problems. Should we immediately dismiss the account that inner Earth Aryans exist as revealed to Admiral Byrd, or was the Admiral Byrd a liar with his pants on fire? Why 1947? Is it a coincidence his encounter is just shy of 1948 and the fulfillment of Genesis 9:27? Most immediately think in terms of the inner earth as its bottomless pit exists indescribably evil demons in chains, including 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Right? Well, that's one thing, but Admiral Byrd conveyed the Ariani were noble, peaceable, knowledgeable, with wisdom and concerned with the developments on the surface. But then, is this encounter anything different to the many accounts of indigenous tribes across the world and their encounters with ETs, the Galactic Federation, Ascended Masters, or Avatars, recorded on what some say is rock art? Why are the Ariani and the many others emerge as peaceable and wise? Your other problem is God reveals there are 2 keys in Revelation. Number 1, the key of David that is given to the Phillies, and in Revelation 3. Number 2, the other given to Satan since his descent began from the northern universe. He then ends up in the pit. It might look pretty down there in the inner earth, even with the cities and tropics, as Admiral Byrd and others have said exist, but it's still the pit. Are we to marvel the wise and peaceable from the inner earth? Paul said, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So how is the Admiral Byrd encounter with the Aryans related to the subversion of the Godhead doctrine? Revelation 12 is the prophetic context. Do you recall Daniel speaks of a king, 8th king, who uses peace for a certain reason? See Daniel 8:23-25. In Revelation 12, the great red dragon's attack is on Christ. Proves the Godhead doctrine. How? The killing of the man-child in Revelation 12. And as you know, Satan used the terrible 4th beast. Further, as discussed previously, the attack on the doctrine of God is an evolving process and continues all through Revelation 12 to the end of time, just as you saw in the charts of Part 1 of the 10 horns and the procession of the animal beasts. Here is a quick reminder of the great red dragon's 10 horns and the doctrine of God. The 3 Aryan kings of Daniel 7:8, Witiges, Totil, and Tia, were part of the 4th beast's 10 horns. The 3 Aryan kings equals first 3 horns were instilled with Aryan belief equals Arius. And yes, from the one God Aryans, there developed another version of the one God theology of the Godhead of the Trinitarian. God said the first 3 horns of the 4th beast were plucked up by the roots, equals Daniel 7:8, the great red dragon of Revelation 12:6. See the chart. Then commenced the scarlet beast, equals woman scenario of the 1260 years, equals transgression of desolation, equals Daniel 8:13. From 554 and the 1290 years, ending precisely in 1844. Thought questions. Why did Satan require the first 3 kings to be uprooted? Why did Satan reverse the one God Aryan theology and weave it back into the one God Trinity doctrine for the 1260 years? Revelation 12:6. See chart in our last video, part 1. The great red dragon is once more prophetically active at the 1260 days, equals Revelation 12:14. The time of the 1260 days of the 1290 of Matthew 24:15 equals abomination of desolation. Summary: the great red dragon's hostile attack was killing the man-child because he verily was one of the 2 Elohim, equals John 1:1, and the deicide was the ultimate objective of the great red dragon. Then, following the resurrection, the attack on the doctrine of God resumes, and Satan used the fourth beast in its threefold prophetic active and inactive active. Was, is not, and yet is, as defined in Revelation 17 via the scarlet beast plus the woman. 5 fallen kings through to the 7th king, who lasts a short space of time. The scarlet beast and the woman are destroyed by 10 kings. And then Great Red Dragon morphs into the first beast of Revelation 13 for the final push, the Luciferian Age. Fact is, even though 3 Aryan kings and their one god theology was uprooted by Justinian, the Scarlet Woman, riding the scarlet 10-horned beast, advanced the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies. Yes, all down through all the 7 kings equals, which was the era of the transgression of desolation, and that reign was central to the desolation of the doctrine of God. But Laodicea missed the point. God explains the Scarlet Woman and Beast are not around for the final 10 round kings of the 10-10 scenario. The first beast of Revelation 13 is another beast in the prophetic active, and the Scarlet Beast is no longer equals Revelation 17:16. For those who think there is no change in the attack on the doctrine of God at the time of the first beast, well, you need to rethink the first angel's warning and then read slowly Revelation 13:5-6. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Because of what you just read, there is another transition age, equals a morphing and the global belief, and it is all about the doctrine of God. Read Revelation 13:4. Just as God said, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? All the world worshiped the dragon, right? Equals Luciferian age, the one God. Can you now summon a smidgen of interest to the detail of God is provided, let alone then recognize why the first angel's warning of Revelation 14 can never be about a national Sunday law? Hello, anyone home? Well, why did Wagner and Jones in 88 advance the first 3 horns, Arian theology, and Sister White not even once rebuked this heresy? Answer: they were hunkered down and were certainly never going to be advocates of the Holy Roman Empire, the papacy, let alone the Trinity doctrine, at the time of the National Sunday Law. Everyone was anti-Papa Pointyhat. And yet, what Wagner and Jones brought out, and many have taught since, that Christ's righteousness was all about the doctrine of God. Yet they both said Christ was born twice, once in eternity. Right? What is so deceiving, both Wagner and Jones were commandeering the third angel's message in verity, which was Christ's righteousness, with the outrageous Arian heresy. God had an emanated Son in heaven equals God the eternal Son equals Roman Catholic Church baloney. Transgression of desolation of Daniel 8:13 equals fundamental belief number 4. That's it, all in a nutshell. The ruination of Christ's eternal Alpha identity and led to a continuation of the Omega of deadly heresies. And what happened since 88? Well, as strange as it sounds, Laodicea did the unthinkable and appeased the 3 Arian horns and the 7 Trinitarian horns theology of the 10-10 scenario of the inner earth dogma. How? Laodicea officially recognizing both 10-horn version, papal and Arian, and it's all there in Fundamentals 2 and 4 in their 27 fundamental beliefs. Yes, the one God Arian and the one God Trinitarian of the 10 horns of the great red dragon, and includes the terrible 4th beast and the woman who rode the 10-horned scarlet beast of 7 kings. That, as you should know by now, Arian theology is not about Christ's eternal righteousness, and is certainly not righteous by faith. No wonder 88 was a failure, and explains why Sister White never defined the Omega of deadly heresies. Right? This one God construct carries through to the Luciferian age of Revelation 13, the time of the lion-mouthed beast, and then enlivened by the second beast, and brings to life the entities of the inner earth. Why did Laodicea adopt the 10-10 theology of the doctrine of God at the time of the fulfillment of Luke 21:24? That's an impossible That's as impossible an achievement as one could think. And it's why Laodicea cannot resolve the deadliness of the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies that Sister White said would be received and trembled. Well, it's all there with Laodicea. With fundamentals number 2 equals 7 Scarlet Kings Trinity, fundamental 4 equals 3 Arian Kings, God Eternal Son equals Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies. Why did Laodicea in 1980 officially agree to the Godhead theology of the 10 horns of the great red dragon? Answer number 1. Laodicea's failure to resolve until when of Daniel 8:13 and remains unresolved to this day. Early Writings, page 74. Laodicea compromised the Godhead doctrine to host the one God desolation theology of the Trinity and God Eternal Son to be spiritual chums with the evangelicals and baptism, Eucharist, and ministry. Answer number 2. Lucifer's supernatural power achieved the unthinkable immediately after the times of the nations closed, equals Luke 20:24. Laodicea was permanently blinded to not recognize that the cleansing of the sanctuary moves to the court, equals Leviticus 16, equals Ezekiel 9, and not remain in the most holy place, vindicating the doctrine of God and salvation of John 4:22. Answer 3. Satan, via the great red dragon, seduced the once faithful city, equals woman, to play the harlot, 8T250. Satan is the arch enemy of eternal righteousness and hates the fact that he who made is the true Alpha and the Omega, equals Revelation 22:13 and 16, and knows he is defeated but still hostile at war. Otherwise, you would not have to account for, let alone resolve, the huge problem of the Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies, right? Luciferian age. In Revelation 12:14-17, God reveals the great red dragon is prophetically active for the duration of Revelation 13 in what Daniel 12:7-11-12 described the 3 prophetic durations. And I heard the man clothed in linen which was upon the waters of the river, when he had held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, that it shall be for a time, times, and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and from the time that the daily shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. Specifically, 1, 3.5 little years equals time, times and a half equals 1,260 days. 2, then plus 30 days to the 1,290, and then 3, the plus 45 days to the 1,335. Revelation 12 declares a war lost with Christ, but ultimately as a war with the remnant of the woman's seed. In this time frame of Revelation 12:17 is the Luciferian age from the inner earth, emerges with the 8th king of Revelation 17 via Daniel 8:23-25, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. A war supported by the 10 men of Zechariah 8, the 10 crowned kings of the first beast of Revelation 13. The great contention and Luciferian age. What is the world's contention? And all the world wondered after the beast, and they worshipped the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? God responds. Revelation 14:1-4-5. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the firstfruits unto God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. Why? Because Revelation 13:8 presents the Alpha and the Omega identity of the Lamb. Revelation 13:8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from or before the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Those immersed in Laodicea theology refuse to believe Revelation 13:8 even indicates the eternal identity of he who made, or eternal righteousness, and the major blinder is because they say Christ was God the Eternal Son. The Arian doctrine from the Roman Catholic Church equals fundamental number 4. which is why Laodicea cannot establish Christ's eternal righteousness, equals John 1:1, equals Revelation 13:8, or 2 Timothy 1:9. Laodicea entrusted with the sanctuary doctrine and the knowledge of the cleansing of the Day of Atonement, and are the initial focus of the sealing of Revelation 7, as amplified by Sister White in 3T267. Laodicea got really spooked when they were called a cult by Walter Martin in his book Kingdom of the Cults, and what else would you do to save face? Well, amazingly, the best retreat they figured to being normal was the unity with the one God theology of the Great Red Dragon. In so doing, there was less emphasis on the sanctuary doctrine, let alone the seal of God from Revelation 7. Quite something how Satan works, right? Yet all along there existed the theological fact eternal righteousness is enshrined in the Lamb's Book of Life and established the eternal identity of he who made equals the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world equals Revelation 13:8 equals 2 Timothy 1:9, who has saved us and called us with an holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purpose and grace, which was given us in Christ Jesus before the world began. And of course, there is the cleansing on the Day of Atonement. The cleansing of what? Cleansing by the man in linen of the heavenly sanctuary, and then the final ministration in the court, which is the cleansing of guile from the lips of clay. Isaiah 6 equals no guile equals Revelation 14. What is the insurmountable guile? Answer, Alpha and the Omega of deadly heresies, that today is Laodicea's testimony of Jesus. It is an abomination of desolation. Are you now beginning to see the importance of Revelation 13:8 and 2 Timothy 1:9? Why? It's only faith in the eternal righteousness of he who made that answers fully the world's contention, who is able to make war with the beast. Yes, the beast who emerges from the bottomless pit, the inner earth of Revelation 12. And who can make war with the dragon and prevail? Only the power of Christ, Revelation 12:10, and that power is his eternal righteousness. Eternal righteousness doesn't curry favor any guileful version of the one God, whether Arian or Trinitarian doctrines of the 10 horns of the great red dragon that says Christ was begotten or emanated from the Father, right? Why? Because contrary to the 10:10 kings equals Arian and Trinitarian belief of the inner earth, he who made had no beginning and was also God, and was God, equals John 1:1. He who made eternal righteousness is sealed in the foreheads of the fillies of Revelation 3:12, and certainly no sealing for the once faithful woman equals Laodicea, who played the harlot. Why? Laodicea annulled he who made eternal righteousness. With fundamentals 2 and 4 equals 27 fundamental beliefs, which is why Laodicea is spewed, equals Revelation 3:16. Regardless of what Laodicea claim and say or protest, or Sister White said this or that, and being Trinitarian apologists only aligns with all things scarlet, right? Are you beginning to see the real issue here? How eternal righteousness has been the derision of the Great Red Dragon all through time, and the evolution of the 10:10 scenario, and the inner earth entities are about to take it all to a level of supernatural deception, hitherto never seen or experienced. Inner earth postscript. Why was there significant research of the occult and expeditions to Tibet in the 1930s by the Nazis, and the huge interest of the Great Red Dragon's home equals Shangri-La, as well as some inner earth maps that can be found online. See here. The mythological lore from different cultures spanning centuries hints at a subterranean paradise. It is rumored that one Nazi officer stated on record that they had discovered a tropical paradise under the ice for the Führer. The journey for the Nazis began with Tibet and the concept of the Lord of the world in Shangri-La. The matter began with Job in chapter 1. Whether true or false is irrelevant. The map reveals the concept of inner earth, as in Job 1:6-7. Paul confirms what is relevant. Colossians 2. Let no man rob you of your prize by voluntary humility and worshiping of the angels. This is the emanation system of inner earth intermediaries. The modern day equivalent are the ascendant masters and their humility. They are seen as energetic manifestations, dwelling in the things which he hath seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind. Colossians 2 sounds like unity consciousness. On a personal level encounter, if it's the introversive mystical experience, it is a void that is seen or perceived. If it's the extroverted type, then physical object appears to be glued to the individual. This is quite different from Paul's vision of the third heaven, since he heard words that were unspeakable. He also experienced paradise. The words that Paul heard are in fact empirical, yet on an extraordinary level that man could not repeat. Here is a good lesson, since in classic unity consciousness, the experience is supposed to be mindless and then devoid of empirical content, whereas in the biblical versions, you have thrones and angelic figures, such as seen by Isaiah in chapter 6. Totally different than the unity consciousness type. Astral projection or near-death experience is not a unity consciousness experience, since a lot of empirical content is involved with so-called dead loved ones or green fields, blah, blah, blah. Then there is the matter of the inner GPS, and discovered that there is now very little information linking the inner GPS to left brain illusions, almost as if they are trying to hide this fact from the masses and still maintain that soul travel is a reality from a spiritual perspective and not a brain-based illusion. I must needs glory, though it is not expedient, but I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ 14 years ago, whether in the body or I know not, or whether out of the body I know not, God knoweth. Such a one caught up even to the third heaven. And I know such a man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I know not, God knoweth, how that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words which it is not lawful for a man to utter. Colossians 2, and not beholding fast the head, from whom all the body, being supplied and knit together through the joints and bands, increaseth with the increase of God. If ye died with Christ from the rudiments of the world, why, as though living in the world, do ye subject yourselves to ordinances? Handle not, taste not, nor touch, all which things are to perish with the using, and after the precepts and doctrines of men, which things have indeed a show of wisdom, and will worship, and humility, and severity to the body, but are not of any value against the indulgence of the flesh. Does the show of wisdom and humility remind you of Admiral Byrd's Ariane encounter? The handle not, nor taste, nor touch has a purpose in unity consciousness. Its purpose is to abstain from as much empirical content as you can, works-based renunciation of the world, and strict mediation practices to wake up the gnosis or unity conscious experience. Best example are the so-called holy men in India. Yes, it shows severity to the body and shows what happens to be humility. In the mind of the world, when they see these men and compare them to TV preachers like Kenneth Copeland, they immediately gravitate to this assumed humility. Martial arts, for those who recall the Kung Fu television series here, you can see portrayed how humble Kwai Chang Caine was in comparison to the prejudiced cowboys that he used to beat up when they would attack him. The unity conscious comparison, even today, it's the same thing occurring. Men measure righteousness by the fruits of whom they encounter, and get to the time of striking hands with foreigners of Isaiah 2:6. And after the demons are released from the inner earth, equals the bottomless pit, you will have the supernatural to contend as to what is true. For Satan and his Megans will have that assumed humility. And boy, it does produce an effect in those who can be influenced by character from an external perspective. Now, do you realize why the eighth king destroys the saints in Daniel 8:23-25 with peace? 66. Eighth king. When it comes to the final influence of the Luciferian age, equals the inner earth and the spiritualism, well, it has its analysis of the 1010 scenario. And guess what? It is revealed in the Kabbalah book itself, which is Satan's way at Third Temple of defining the 1010 system as Luciferian. All the world worship the dragon, equals Revelation 13:4. All worship what they perceive as humility, the good and virtuous, and what all agree to be in agreement as what they believe is righteousness from an external perspective. What you see and experience influences what you believe, right? When that process is missing the scriptures to assess what is true righteousness, one sees external righteousness, and you end up doing all the world in Revelation 11. Hand gifts to one another when the two witnesses are killed by the beast from the bottomless pit, because they could not tolerate the two witnesses' testimony of Christ and his eternal righteousness. It was too forthright. Revelation 11. And when they, two witnesses, shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. The second woe is past. What a contrast and a massively huge error. What could all the world not perceive? Only the big difference, which is eternal righteousness and the influence of the great red dragon via the inner earth, prevailed. Best pay attention to why Revelation 13:8-9 exists in the era of how all the world perceive eternal righteousness. You should recognize by now the idea of humility equals righteousness is not the real deal. Massive errors of righteousness judgment exist today, and Laodicea is not exempt from the significant spiritual problem that arises from the inner earth. Laodicea was trapped by Satan when Luke 21:24 was fulfilled. But if you think the issue of humility and righteousness has been exhausted in this discussion, far be it the case. Consider what's also installed. The Kabbalah book of the Third Temple scenario would complete the picture of the 1010 scenario, because the first three emanations of the Sephirot are in fact 10 emanations, and the first three are 1. Keturah the crown, Chakma, a male energy, Bina, a female energy. The next 7 bring in the 1010, which is the Kabbalah Luciferian religion. Satan might actually want to topple this false revelation by way of the Friday Keepers and the final revelation of the cube of Saturn. Cross-reference Psalms 83. Paul already explained the power of these mystical systems in Colossians 2. Let no man rob you of your prize by voluntary humility and worshipping of the angels, dwelling in the things which he has seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind, and not beholding fast the head, from whom all the body, being supplied and knit together through the joints and bands, increases with the increase of God. Further, the realm of singularity, noosphere, equals the law of one, holds its essence with universal love, the very direction of all the outreach of churches today, and it's linked to the one God Kabbalah book, the one God Arian version, Father and Son, the one God Papa Pointy Hat version, Trinity. It's all based on the so-called energetic manifestations of the universe in the form of the eternal generation from the void, which is a Papa Pointy Hat doctrine equals God, the eternal Son. Straight from Arius, woven into the Nicene Creed and assented, published by Laodicea in Fundamentals 2 and 4. Sephirot. Here's your link. Ein Sof equals formless state of the universe prior to the materialization of God. This echoes the theology of Mithra, who was born from a rock inside a cave, equals metaphor for the void universe prior to creation. The Great Red Dragon theology is manifested in Arianism and Trinity doctrine because they are manifestations of so-called universe religion, even though they appear to be at war. The concept of war entails progression in the world of the Luciferian mindset of evolving ideas of the false constructs, leading up to the final false construct of Luciferianism at the very end. Revelation 9 confirms the inner earth. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. The great furnace of the dark smoke equals the demonic realm, and God confirms the inner earth in Revelation 11 and the beast from the bottomless pit. Revelation 11, and when they, the two witnesses, shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. Bottomless pit equals Job 1. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Equals Philippians 2:10. Wherefore God also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name, that the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth. Is there a connection to the prior discussion of Isaiah 2:6 and the striking of hands with spiritualism? See this link. There is the replenishment from the kings of the east, equals sorcery, equals the ascended masters with their peace and wisdom at the time of the third temple. The reign of the eighth king of Revelation 17 equals Daniel 8 equals the 2 Thessalonians 2 guy. Fact is, Isaiah 2 previously forewarned everyone. Therefore, thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. For thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they are filled with customs from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they strike hands with the children of foreigners. In other words, one really needs to wake up like today, not sometime later, when it's midnight. Well, as you know, Admiral Byrd met the Ariani. Today, an abundance of UFO encounters with inner Earth entities, and while some say it's predictive programming, and others will say it's the alien card or demonic to the inner Earth. But then, to authenticate anything these days, to even begin to determine if it's true and of God or the supernatural, fact is, it will only become far more difficult to discern, and no wonder Sister White said you would be in peril. So if you completely miss the importance of He who made, who said, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, fact remains, Satan hates Christ and his eternal righteousness, and from thence equals eternal righteousness by faith. And if that divine reality of eternal righteousness is insufficient for your thinking, you have the sealing time of Revelation 7, which is now, right? The other option? Be spiritually absorbed by the show of wisdom and humility, and Isaiah has told everyone, it is with the universal love by those nice-speaking, righteous guides of sorcery equals Luciferianism. Equals Isaiah 2, 2 Thessalonians 2 guy, Revelation 13, the eighth king, who is of the seven. Matthew 24 conveys the deception is unbelievably strong and common. Yep, all related to the inner earth found in Revelation 12, 7-13. Sister White rightly warned of being in peril. Sister White context follows the fulfillment of Luke 21:24. After the truth has been proclaimed as a witness to all nations, every conceivable power of evil will be set in operation. Every conceivable power of evil will be set in motion, appears as light, wisdom, and righteousness of supernatural developments, and summarized in Revelation 12. The War of Revelation 12. The War of Revelation 12 is the fullest expression of hostility to eternal righteousness, equals verse 17. A Luciferian war equals 13:7 to be experienced, and the details of what's going down are presented in Revelation 13. Is today your inkling time? Do you now get any clue of an idea of why Revelation 14 presents the three angels' warnings about the final 10:10 war? The three angels' messages are considerable to the opposition of Christ, why Christ is the Alpha and the Omega. Revelation 17:12-14 tells you the considerable opposition is via the 10:10 king, one God scenario. Equals 10 horns, 3 Arian and 7 Trinitarian. The war against He who made is the continuation of the transgression of desolation. Equals Daniel 8:13, equals Revelation 12:6. To finally emerge as the abomination of desolation, Matthew 24:15 and Revelation 12:14. And yeah, the one God faith of the 10 contemporary kings equals Revelation 17, who joined the beast of Revelation 13 and transitioned to the 10 crowned kings, led by the beast from the bottomless pit, and its war against the Lamb, equals Revelation 17:12-14. The great red dragon's hostile war against its one God faith. What constitutes the one God war equals the universal religion of Gnostics. And by the way, the law of one equals singularity. It's present in any version of the one God, Arian Trinitarian construct. But then God already tells you the seventh king, scarlet beast, and the woman are destroyed, equals Revelation 17:16. And what about it? Well, the Arian and Trinitarian one God is replaced by the Luciferian religion of Revelation 13 from the inner earth, and all the world worship the dragon. Right? And it's all, as Isaiah 2 said, is energetic manifestations, all via the third temple and its oppressive law, equals Isaiah 2:3. Satan uprooted the three Arian kings and finally removes the last king of the seven Trinitarian kings. And what's left? The eighth, who is of the seven. Zechariah tells us the 10 contemporary kings who discarded the scarlet woman and her city responded just as Zechariah states. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all the language of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. Well, the 10 agree and say, we will now go with you because we have heard God is with you. The 10:10 scenario is still prophetically active and in contention is the first angel's warning. So what about the sanctuary doctrine? And then Revelation 7 and the seal of God and the sealing time of the 144,000. Well, here's the thing. How does Laodicea progress from its lukewarm situation and what will be for them an alien prophetic landscape? Totally unprepared, and worse, have not resolved the alpha and the omega of deadly heresies, nor interested in its contribution to the blasphemy against he who made and his eternal identity. Next discussion will be Revelation 14 and the seal of the two fathers, to be followed by the schematic of the seal of God.